Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Brian. We're going to do a special selection today, which is where one of you tell me exactly what it is I need to check out. Today's special selection comes at us from Ryan. I can't promise you'll love it, but I can promise you won't be bored, and it isn't a slow burn. Well, this is off to a good start. This was Mike Oldfield's rebellion against Virgin, his record label, as the relationship was strained due to issues such as their influence on the musical direction of his most recent albums, his contract, and their lack of support promoting his work. Therefore, he decided to make an album he wanted to make without worrying about making it commercially viable. He actually purposefully wrote it in such a way that it would be difficult to market and no section of it could be made into a single. The description goes downhill a little bit after the beginning. I'll be honest, I am a bit apprehensive to get into this. That's also another reason right there. I don't know where the extra 2 seconds come in. Supposedly the track is supposed to be exactly 60 minutes long. You've seen the timestamp for the video. You know this is going to be a long one. I'm expecting somewhere between 90 to 100 minutes long for this one. Mike Oldfield, man. We're looking at the track Amarok. Let's just dive into it. Let's see where this takes us. Let's go. I'm kind of curious about what Mike used to make though, because we've listened to a couple tracks from him, and one, I'm kind of surprised he had a record label at all, much less Virgin Records. And two, he's never really been a name I've associated with singles. He just makes interesting music. I can't imagine anything he's ever done that I've listened to as marketable. I do like the synth pads coming in the back there. I am noticing, looking at the title over here, Amarok, everything's mirrored. The two letters that couldn't be reflected perfectly were doubled up to create a mirror reflection in them.
Happy?
That was random.
happy,
I'm constantly on edge because I have no idea when the next volume spike is going to happen. Come on.
happy, 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 happy,
It's really interesting to try to get into the mindset of Mike in many of these moments. Because the entire song, as stated, is designed to be antagonistic and not marketable, while also making sure that any moments that are more palatable can't be turned into a single. And so as I listen to this, I'm trying to figure out if there's any moments that I think, like this is a nice section. The acoustic guitar section that came prior to this with the electric guitar melody over it, I think would be marketable. But it's like, I can understand the frustration in the label. Both of these sections work well. They don't work against each other. We haven't really had any disruptive sounds in a while, but having that high energy move into this ambient section just doesn't really work. And now we're close to like, well, this is, if we like start high, dip down and come back up into this, and see, they're just, if it's not disruptive sounds, it's disruptive flow. These are some really solid moments back to back. There's just no way to craft this into a single concept though. There just isn't a good starting or stopping point for it. And like, that's so crafty. I thought a lot of it was just going to be antagonistic, like the really loud disruptive sounds in the opening couple of minutes. But Mike's finding some really ingenious ways to build out a song that is interesting and palatable at moments, but there's just no point in here where you could really cut things up and make it into a profitable, marketable single. He's just really smart about the way he's crafting this. Oh man. I think the overall tone of this has been interesting as well. There has been some rockier parts to some of it, but a lot of it feels folky. Both more of the European folk, there's been a little bit of medieval in here, there's been some Americana, a lot of folk influences. Now we got a little bit of what is that? That's very soulful 70s funky guitar stuff. I am enjoying how he's taking the timbres that I associate with specific types of music and pairing it with composition from a different style. There's a lot of experimentation going on in that route. I don't know that every single one of it clicks, but it is interesting nonetheless. And does like to return to this Americana vibe, though. I think this is the third section that sort of had this bluesy western feel to it. Oh, we're changing though. I think it mostly comes down to the guitar tone and composition, because it's always paired with something that doesn't quite fill in that feeling. I love the bouncing around on this. Now it feels like I'm at a Renaissance fair. How did we get here? Nobody knows. I knew we were going somewhere weird. I could hear it in the way that the note choices in the melody were beginning to distort. I think another thing that helps is I don't know what kind of music Mike Oldfield was making at the time. There are certainly some passages in here I think could have been chopped down to a single, but would it have attracted his fans? If he made predominantly electronic music at the time, there's not a lot of stuff in here that I think would work for that audience. You know, it's kind of sad. I can't tell if that's Aguero or if that's somebody brushing their teeth. The first thing I thought with that guitar and the glass shattering, although it's probably China shattering. Time for a bar fight. What does Amarok mean? Okay. beautiful section. I will say that a majority of these sections, though, are ideas, and it's what makes it difficult to chop it up. Nothing really leads into the next. Not on the larger idea of sections leading into sections, but even within within a sound, the idea is stagnant. We've added some layers on this, but we haven't expanded on it. It's not going anywhere, it simply is. I was waiting for that. Oh, it actually didn't go where I thought. We had played around with that repeated beat earlier to create a punctuation at the end of the phrase on the guitar, that throwing that triplet hit in there. And I figured we were going to use it as like a glitch thing to lead us into a new section. And we didn't. It just, again, it stops. There's no connectivity between anything. I am becoming more impressed with the use of just general sounds as musical instruments. To be fair though, it has been a while since we've listened to anything antagonistic. The open clap in a high reverb room. I love that over there. Ah. See, here's a really cool merger of ideas. A little bit of folk, a little bit of classical, and a ton of rock's bravado. slightly detuned. When did this come out? Yeah, I was gonna say that rhythm is not working. And the longer it goes on, the less it grooves. It's interesting too to listen to what instruments he returns to often. They frequently are guitar, which is why I've brought up a couple times regarding what kind of music Mike used to make. I have his name associated with electronic for some reason in my mind. This is very close to Pachelbel's canon. It wasn't. Just very similar. I was just thinking it wouldn't make a good single, but you could chop this up. You got a solid 2 to 3 minutes of a single concept going on here. But again, that's just the genius of the track. There's so many good moments, you just can't isolate them. They don't make worthwhile in isolation. Why is the walking out of step with the choir? That's just so infuriating. The song is becoming increasingly esoteric. Yeah, increasingly esoteric as we progress through it. Thank you for helping me prove that point, Mike. The production on those, too much overdrive, man. I do find it interesting how the opening 20 minutes or so, maybe like 15 minutes, had a flurry of ideas. So far this mid-quarter has been more focused on, or mid-third maybe, has been more focused on slow burn, just existing in a single idea for quite some time. We're past the midpoint now. I'm beginning to see if I can't hear any concepts of reflection. Again, based off of the album art. So far, though, the answer is no. There's something about his melody writing that feels old. Something very 90s about it. Not like Not like the cool, rad side of the 90s, but like the adults of the 90s. I do love the use of glockenspiel all throughout this, though. Just a beautiful instrument. I'm gonna say a little bit of an accelerando there, but that was more than a little bit. We increased that tempo quite a margin. What song does this remind me of? Some of these changes make less sense than the others. I'll just nicely put it at that. Oh man. I hope this doesn't come across as rude, mean-spirited, or too negative. Oh! But we're 2/3 done. The finish line is in sight. What is that bass line making me remember? There's so many little, I feel like Easter eggs, little nods towards other music. I suppose it could be coincidence, but it feels like it isn't. It's a fun little piano part. Constant reuse of the HA sound from the happy sample we had earlier to sound like laughter. I think there's more to this track than just being mad. Than just being... petty's not the right word. Yeah, the more I hear, the more I'm getting an interesting idea about what I think is going on. Here. Bringing back almost everything. The last couple of minutes and what I assume the final 10 are going to be is esoteric, not just in oddities, but in the way things get mashed up. We're going to be bringing back many of the sounds, instruments, genres, atmospheres that we've explored through most of this track and smash them together as a big finale. That's kind of where I think this is going. The claps coming in between the downbeat of 3 and the offbeat of 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. It's like it's right after 3. It's a weird place for him. Very funky. some of these sections do go for more of a minimal approach, I suppose. It's not like it's underdeveloped, it's just moves at a slower pace than some others. Stretch my knees a little bit. I've been standing here for a long time. Oh, nice having the horns coming on the back. No, like, dude, that's a good place to stop it. I know there's 6 minutes left, but like, what in the world?
Hello, everyone. I suppose you think that nothing much is happening at the moment. Well, that's what I want to talk to you all about. Endings. Now, endings normally happen at the end. But as we all know, endings are just beginnings. You know, once these things really get started, it's jolly hard to stop them again. However, as we have all come this far, I think, under the circumstances, the best solution is that we all just keep going. Let's keep this going in sight, never an ending. Let's remember that this world wants fresh beginnings. I feel here in this country and throughout the world, we are crying out for beginnings, beginnings. We never want to hear this word endings. I know you all want to sit down. I know you want to take it easy. Of course you're looking for the good. Of course you're looking for a fresh start.
Oh, we got a nice little cannon going on here.
Isn't that charming? Do you know, I really feel I could dance. Charming. Happy?
Happy.
I want to start it over for a second. Oh, yeah. No, totally different idea. All right. I'm going to start with a question, and then I'm going to talk for like an hour, and then we'll circle back to the question and see if it makes more sense then. How long did Mike Oldfield work with Virgin Records after creating this? Now, the first thing I want to talk about here is disruption. Disruption occurs on this album and this song in a variety of different ways. We have sonic disruption. We heard a lot of this towards the beginning of the song, less so towards the middle, and very rarely, if at all, towards the end. Having a sound, usually a quieter sound, something more ambient, and then having an electric guitar or a driving synth come in and disrupt it sonically, usually by being rather loud and abrasive sounding, lots of distortion and fuzz, being pushed past the point of clipping, just being a nuisance to what music is happening. We saw a lot of this at the beginning, and as I mentioned, I was on edge for a lot of it as I never knew when the next volume spike was going to happen. It was antagonistic to me as a listener, just as much as it was antagonistic to the music. This began to peter off in the middle. We heard it a couple of times, but by the 30-40 minute mark, I had stopped worrying about it. It stopped coming up that way. Instead, the song shifted to a different type of disruption, which is flow disruption, I guess we can call it. We'll have a section of a song and it will build up and begin to do newish things. I wouldn't say that any of these sections really explored a lot of new ground. They tended to stay pretty much where they started, just adding a couple layers to it. And as soon as the concept begins to get legs and walk in any direction, it's cut short. A new idea comes in instead. We replace where we were with where we are now. Usually doing something very different tone-wise and atmosphere-wise, usually also timbre and key-wise as well. Just completely scrapping everything and bringing something new to the table. Between those two concepts, we have a song that very rarely feels like it's doing any one thing. It lacks cohesion through most of it. Those last 10 minutes, I would say, were the most cohesive elements of the song, and they were still fairly disjointed in what they were achieving, what the instruments were bringing to the table, and overall sonic characteristics. The different instruments present were not always harmonious in a way that all of the sounds would come together to create something that works well. It almost feels at most times that Mike is forcing something to work more so than it just naturally works in that direction. And so we end up with a song that is fairly disparate and not too interested in telling a story. It's not too interested in being listenable. It's not too interested in looking at any one thing in particular. Not within a moment and not within the larger scheme of things. It's one of those songs that feels like it always has one eye on the sheet music and another eye on a totally different work. And it's like, can't wait till I get to do that. I kind of like what I'm doing here, but I don't know. It's not going to keep my attention for much longer. Ready to dive into something completely different. And so, through this, there really isn't much of a story that this song presents to me. It's a bunch of ideas that are not connected in the slightest of ways, jumping around between a bunch of different ideas. We have rock, blues, jazz, country, Americana, medieval folk style. We have folk from different cultures around the world. I'm pretty sure I heard a Japanese flute in there. Somewhere we have the glockenspiel, we have gospel, we have choir, there's ballads, there's plenty of rock in here as well. There's electronic sounds, there's glitch style stuff, which I don't know how prominent that was around this time, but yeah, like proto glitch electronic music going on here. Um, it is sonically just all over the place. It's difficult for me to see this as anything other than a sound collage. It is a bunch of different pictures of music, so to speak, placed next to each other across various different mediums and sounds and textures and timbres and harmonic concepts and keys and chord progressions. Much like a visual collage could be made up of pictures from magazine and cardstock and cardboard and loose leaf paper, all sorts of stuff. That's sort of what this feels like. I was, normally you would call a collage visually noisy, and I was going to call this sonically noisy, but like that's also sort of how we use the word noise, is that it's usually about audio. So it's really weird when words loop back in on themselves. Like I want to use the concept of visual noise to describe the sonic noise, but noise is usually a sonic property. That's interesting. That's what it is though. It's a lot of a lot smashed together in a way that it works to an extent, much like a visual collage works at representing whatever it's supposed to represent, the disparate parts coming together to form the whole. The same thing is true here. All the disparate parts do form Amarok. The song is defined by the wildly different textures presented here, but it's also wildly disparate, filled with a bunch of ideas that just don't work together. It's what creates the characteristic of the song, but also it is a definition of itself. It is a song that is not really a song. It's a lot of other little songs put together. And the sound collage idea, I think, is what makes it difficult for me to get into entirely. It's less of a song and more of y'all remember commercials for Now That's What I Call Music or Kids Bop? And, it's a collection of songs popular in the time. and they would have the list of all the songs scrolling up, and like every 4 songs they would play a snippet of. That's what this feels like. We sort of phase in and out of completely different songs altogether, and they're put together by proximity, not because they're designed to be listened to cohesively. At least that's how it feels like to me here. Many of the ideas do not flow into one another. They don't share any common concepts. They don't share any composition. They don't even share timbre. The production, the instrumentation, all of it is just different from section to section. And so it feels like a sampler disc. It's like, hey, this is a bunch of songs that Mike wrote and he smashed them together. There are a couple of ideas in here, though, that help it feel a tad bit more cohesive. There are callbacks, sometimes timbre callbacks, bringing back instruments. The finger-picked acoustic guitar and 2 of the electric guitar tones, primarily the ones used for the lead melody lines, are timbres that we hear frequently. The glockenspiel comes back lots. The choir is around in many places. And there's even some motifs and styles that get repeated often. We have more of that folky Renaissance concept. We have an early rock style that comes in quite a bit. Many of the sections are completely unique in their composition, but they tend to embody the same, like 6 or 7 ideas as far as sound goes, genre maybe. We do explore past that, but there are a handful of genres that tend to crop up multiple times. And beyond that, there's little licks, little phrases, little sound bites that continue to come up over and over and over again that help connect everything. The happy line is used in like 5 of the, I don't know, 70 segments in here. It's not a lot, but it's something that ties some of the later ideas back to our opening one. It is interesting to find these callbacks, and I wonder if there's more than what I found. I'm sure there are. This is an incredibly dense track. There's a lot going on in it, and I definitely did not pick up everything on a first time through it, but the fact that I found a few makes me wonder if there are more. Just these random threads that connect everything. And again, I point back to the way that the album art is stylized. A, M, and O are symmetrical across the x-axis already. R and K are not, so they are given two R's, 2 K's in order to create the mirror reflection. That's not by accident. And so it makes me wonder if there is some sort of, not necessarily a straightforward mirroring across the album, but a way of having later parts of the album call back and reference and are tied to earlier parts, even though everything feels disparate. There are still some elements where you can say this is connected to that because they're using the same soundbite, or here's a lick that you don't remember because it was 50 minutes ago that we've brought back, that kind of thing. There is an element of connection throughout all of this, even if it is not something I think most people are going to pick up on. And so here's what this song feels like to me. It's a series of sounds exploring a ton of different styles and atmospheres, utilizing hundreds of instruments that sort of phase in and out like a sampler disc. There is a part of this that, sure, is Virgin Records, I hate you, I'm going to do my own thing, and you're not going to be able to market it. That's how much effort I'm going to put into making this something that cannot be sold or chopped up or distributed in any manner other than what I control. But there's another part of this that reads to me as a resume. Does anybody else get that feeling? I don't know what kind of music Mike made prior to this. Maybe all of it is wild and eclectic like this is, but I kind of get the feeling based on one little description from the special selection comment was that Mike wanted to make the music he wanted to make, which makes me think that he has all of this skill in here. This is something I didn't really touch on that I meant to before coming into this, is that a lot of these styles, whether it's the folk, the Americana, the Renaissance style, the medieval style, electronic, glitch, all of it's done really well. He has a vast understanding of how all of these genres work and how they're supposed to sound and what melodies feel like and sound like within them, what kind of atmospheres they use, what kind of timbres, like just a really strong sense of how all these genres work. And it feels like to me that he was being pigeonholed into creating a specific type of music and he wanted to expand outside of that. And so he puts this together. This is a snapshot of everything that he can do right now. Not just the types of music, but kind of pairing them together, smashing genres together that you wouldn't expect, having some callbacks, making sure that it all feels disparate but is interconnected in some way. And by the end of it, ties it all together thematically, talking about endings and beginnings, not allowing this song to end when there was a perfect moment to do so, and speaking on the idea of having control over art. There actually is a thematic tie to it all, though it exists outside of the music itself. And he got his current employer to broadcast this out to everybody. That's the feeling I get out of it. And I'm really curious how many more albums he worked with Virgin before getting picked up by someone else. Because this does feel like a resume to me. This is everything he can do, everything you didn't know he could do, but he can, and a showcase of work in practice. I'm not telling you I can do this, I'm showing you I can do all of this. And I'm tired of dealing with Virgin. If that's true, 100% fantastic. I love it. I don't know if that's actually what's going on here. It could have just been him wanting to write more music that was outside of the box he was put in. He just smashed all this together. And Virgin was like, okay, whatever, we'll do it. But that's kind of what this feels like to me. The whole sampler quality of it, the fade in and fade out of different styles. It is disparate, but it is cohesive. It's difficult to pull together. It's difficult to read apart. It is everything and nothing. And that's, to me, that's what a resume is. It's a collection of ideas that don't really mean anything outside of the paper that it's on. It all makes sense when you understand it's a resume, but outside of that, it's just a list of things. That's what the song feels like. It's a series of completely unrelated concepts. If so, dude is 100% a mad lad. I haven't really talked too much about individual parts of the song, and I don't think I'm going to. Uh, there's just too many moments to really dig into, and a lot of it is surface level. As I mentioned, the rock parts sound like rock, the ambient parts sound ambient electronic, the funkier parts sound like funk music. Sometimes the timbres are paired up with interesting genres, but for the most part, a lot of this just shows me that he has a real strong grasp of what makes genres, which makes them iterative. I wouldn't say anything in here really was innovative outside of just smashing it all together and having a lot of the electronic elements come in and play on top of more iterative style writing. The iteration is in the esoteric element of it. It's the avant-garde component, not necessarily the individual stylings. But I will say that he does a fantastic job at creating atmosphere, which I think I've already talked about on another work that we had. Man, what was that called? Omidon? Omenfield? I don't remember, something like that. No, his name's Oldfield. Maybe that's where I got that. Maybe it is Omidon. But yeah, he's just really great at crafting an atmosphere and injecting an emotion into it, all that kind of stuff. One last thing has really nothing to do with anything else and isn't analytical at all, but I did do a quick search to see what Amarok meant. That's kind of difficult. It is something from Terraria, a enemy maybe. Volkswagen has an Amarok car which dominates the search results. There's also a perimeter security company called Amarok. They are up there as well. And there is an Inuit wolf called Amarok, though it's spelled differently, I guess, in the traditional way, though the modern spelling of it is this Amarok. It's a gigantic wolf said to stalk and devour any person foolish enough to hunt alone at night. None of this. Oh, there's also a music player for Linux called Amarok. It's kind of cool. So yeah, cars, music software, giant wolves, and security. And that's about all I can find on 2 pages worth of this. Like I said, the Volkswagen vehicle takes up a majority of search results. So I don't know what the word means. Why was it chosen here? What's up with the specific font used on the thing, the mirroring? What does it mean to Mike? I think that's my question here. This has been a lengthy one. I appreciate everyone sticking around for the whole thing. I know the analysis was a little light, but it is a lot of music to get through, so it was more of a surface level analysis, though I still think I had an interesting read on it all. Whew. I need to take a seat. Those are my thoughts on Mike Oldfield's Amarok. Let me know what yours are if you agree with me on anything, disagree with me on anything, have your own interpretations, perspectives, or opinions on this track. Let me know down in the comment section. Above the comments in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. It takes you to this menu right here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all 3 of those. That wraps it up for today. I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern. I'm kidding, my voice isn't giving out. I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 p.m. UTC as usual. We're going to wrap up this week's theme of independent rock and check out some brand new music. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.